They say there's no such thing as a must-win game in September. For Iowa football, this is a must-win game against Minnesota. We break down the importance, what this means for the future of Iowa football. Plus, we talk with John Bohnenkamp all today. Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube in YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We start today with a look at the importance of this football game, and it was a fleeting thought earlier today as I was making my way in to my radio show that you can hear on the Iowa Sports Radio Network across the great state of Iowa. Making my way in and just thinking about this game. You've heard me throughout the course of this week talk about just how important this game is to me. It's my favorite rivalry game. Family, friends that live up in Minnesota, colleagues and the like, growing up in North Iowa. This is my favorite rivalry game. It's got the greatest rivalry trophy in college football with Floyd of Rosedale. Great story about that and just everything that goes along with it. We've seen some incredible games. We've seen goofy games. We've seen everything in this rivalry. It's what makes a rivalry great. Is Iowa going to win a national championship in my lifetime? Likely not. Is Minnesota? No. And if that's all it's about, then yes, this rivalry game probably doesn't do it for you. The likelihood that this dictates the college football playoff, dictates who gets to a Big Ten championship game, this is at a lower level than that. But there is so much more to this game. But for Iowa football, it's hugely important. Because, yes, it's a rivalry game. Yes, it's fun. It's important for Iowa to get a win and get back. But thinking more big picture, more globally about this Iowa football program. And if Iowa sustains a loss on Saturday against the Gophers, what this is going to do and what the rhetoric is going to be around this football program. Iowa came into the season with big expectations, at least for Iowa standards, a preseason top 25 team and talk as a dark horse college football playoff team. And if you don't even get through the month of September and you're already out of it with 2 losses and looking at a 3rd loss against Ohio State, it's going to get incredibly toxic around Iowa football from the fans, the media, and everybody else involved, because the likelihood is then you're looking at a team that will be 2-3. But not only that, a loss here with the bye week in front of them, there's going to be a lot of negativity. Look, Iowa was able to get by the last couple of years with an elite defense and great special teams. The defense has shown cracks this year, and the special teams, certainly the punt unit, has not been anything close to elite. It has been a significant drop-off on both of them of what we expected. And even with improvements of offense, and it's certainly been much better and aesthetically pleasing offense, Iowa State second half aside, from what we've seen in previous years. When you don't have those 2 elite levels on the other sides of the football, the other components of the game with defense and special teams, it's not going to look great for Iowa football. Iowa was able to find a way. They were able to find a way in the old Big Ten West. They were able to stack up successful seasons year after year after year. 2 of the last 3 Big Ten West championships. Though they didn't go well against Michigan, you got there. You were able to do it. You put together these great seasons. 10 wins a season ago in the regular season. 8-5, 10-4, 6-2, 10-3, 9-4. That's what Iowa's done over the last 6 seasons. Those are the seasons that they've been able to put together. But there's always, but you can't beat the big boys anymore. But the gap between you and the elites of college football and the elites of the Big Ten has grown wider throughout these years. Even with the successes against the Minnesotas and the Iowa States and the Nebraskas of the world, even with the success that Iowa has had, that gap has built on the others. And then suddenly you have another loss to Iowa State, your second in the last 3 years. You have back-to-back losses to Minnesota, a Nebraska team that looks like they're finally fixed after decades of ineptitude and look to be at least trending in a positive direction. You have that happening with the programs around you. And Wisconsin's got their own set of issues. Illinois is in the top 25. You have all these happening in the programs right around you while you are sitting at 2-2 with a bye week and 2 weeks to talk about how you're going to get blown out by Ohio State and then sit at 2-3. That's why this game is so important. Kirk Ferentz is 69 years old. Kirk Ferentz, I believe, knows how difficult next season is going to be. Iowa next year, by my count, is looking at returning 6-7 starters. If you look at that across the country, that would be one of the lowest marks of a year in any given season. That's where you're looking at. 3, maybe 4 starters gone on your offensive line. Quarterback graduates. Running back Kaleb Johnson, if he continues at the season he's going to be off, getting cash. A wide receiver room that doesn't have a ton there. That's, I guess, the one. Luke Lachey, he's gone. And then you look defensively and the way that that's going to be impacted and what's coming back next season. A defense that up front will lose Deontay Craig, Wyatt Black, Ethan Hurkett, all your linebackers, Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, even Kyler Fisher, Sebastian Castro, Quinn Schulte, Jamari Harris, all those guys are gone. All those guys have used their eligibility and it will be over for them. You're looking at a rebuild. And then you couple that with what the future looks like in terms of scheduling. This was a year where Iowa got incredibly lucky. You look at the draw that they got. You look at the teams that are coming in this year. A team like Washington played for a national championship a year ago. Decimated. DeBoer goes to Alabama. New coaching staff. It was a very veteran roster. So you had that happening. And here's Iowa now looking towards the future. Next year. What Iowa has in front of them over the next 2 seasons in the Big Ten is going to look completely different. 2025, as I bring it up here. 2025. This is the slate in the Big Ten. Your road trips include Wisconsin, USC, Rutgers, and Nebraska. The home slate, Penn State, Oregon, Minnesota, Michigan State, Indiana doesn't look like they're going anywhere. And you have to go to Iowa State. That's what's happening in a rebuilding year in 2025. How about 2026? They go to Illinois, to Michigan, to Minnesota, to Washington, and to Northwestern. Home games against Ohio State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and you get Purdue in there. That's what they're looking at the next 2 seasons. That's daunting. Incredibly daunting for a program like Iowa. The Big Ten West, it's not coming back. The Big Ten West would have been nice to have in those 2 seasons. And with this changing dynamic of college football and the move to a 12-team playoff, Iowa's best opportunity is right now. And if you take those expectations and you fall on your face again against a Minnesota team that I just believe that they are better than, and you lose another game that you should win with Ohio State looming, things are going to get ugly for Iowa football. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes, a conversation, deeper dive into Iowa football this week as we prepare for the matchup against Minnesota. We'll talk about the matchup against the Gophers, how it looks like, some very nice stats for the Gophers, and Phil Fleck. I hate the guy as an individual. Dude's a football coach, and he's got another solid football team built the way a team from Minnesota should be built. We'll preview the Gophers and talk with John Bohnenkamp as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something just a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. All right, bet $5, get that 3-week free trial. All right, what are you looking at here? Well, you can do it right in college football. You can take a peek at the Iowa-Minnesota game. Iowa currently a 2.5-point favorite in this one. Over/under sitting at 36.5. That is an intriguing one. And though Iowa has gone over the total the first 3 weeks of the season, as we move into Big Ten play, you do wonder a little bit about that one. Michigan, USC. USC's opener in the Big Ten, having to go to the Big House. That one's going to be a lot of fun. In the Big 12, Utah, Oklahoma State. Really excited about that. Of course, a full slate of NFL. They got you covered over at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. And once again, a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV with a $5 bet. Download FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is also brought to you by Roy. Hawkeye fans, want to tell you a little bit about Roy. If you haven't heard about it, it stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL completely changed the game for athletes. Roy changes the NIL game for fans. Here's why Roy is different. Directly support the players. Roy allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness. Engage with athletes across their NIL journey. By using Roy, fans not only support athletes financially, but also become part of their name, image, and likeness NIL journey, helping them succeed both on and off the field. Download Roy for iOS or Android and make sure you enter the referral code Locked On. You'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Visit or download Roy for iOS and Android, and make sure you use that referral code Locked On to be entered into the sweepstakes. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. All right, time to talk a little Hawkeyes here as we welcome in our good friend John Bohnenkamp. You can find him at the AP, also HawkeyeNation.com, talking all things Hawkeyes with John Bohnenkamp, and always enjoy our conversations. Yes, he's a Dodgers fan. That's all right. We won't hold it against him as he gets ready to prepare for probably another disappointing playoffs there. We talk with, right now, John Bohnenkamp. Not a long season in front of us in college football as we get into the Hawkeyes with you. Ken, he complains about it every year. It does go so fast. And here we are. Non-conference is over for the Hawkeyes. Big Ten play starts with Minnesota coming up on Saturday. What kind of grade would you give the Hawkeyes here through the non-conference? Where would you be? Maybe you can break it down offensively, defensively. 3 games in, what kind of grade are you giving the Hawks?
Okay, well, I was going to say, if you wanted me to break it down like by side of the ball, I will say offensively, I'm going to give them a B minus. Because I mean, they've run the ball really well, and I think they've been really good up front. You know what? I'll change it to just straight B, because they have run the ball really well, and I do think the offensive line is much better than what it was last year, which is why they're running the ball so well. And I think passing wise, I think there's been some inconsistency. But the other day, at least they were kind of moving the ball with short passes. So I'll give them a B on that. Defensively, I'm going to give them a B minus. I mean, I think they've been really good up front. Obviously, really good linebacker. They have not been really good at secondary, and they give up plays. Special teams, I'd almost say C plus at this point, because they've given up some. I mean, there's been some penalties on special teams. There was the big return the other day, so I'm going to give them a C plus. If I had to give an overall grade, probably B minus at this point.
Yeah, Stevens has been good. Dakin, the line drive punt didn't go in their favor, putting it mildly the other day. But Ross is so gifted, so much speed. So here comes Minnesota. I guess the Hawks will go and take on a Minnesota team who's has not given up a score in their last 2 games. Now, they haven't played anybody. The North Carolina game. Here's what I know about. Here's what I think I know about Minnesota. If the game comes down to a kick, I think I was in a really good chance because their kicker is not good. He's 5 for 9.
Right.
I want to say, including a potential game winner that was no good against North Carolina. They could be unbeaten had it been not for a kick that went awry at the end of that football game. When are these two evenly matched teams in your mind, John?
No, I think Iowa's a little better, and I mean, I just because, like you said, I don't think Minnesota really. I don't really know what they've done here in the last couple of weeks that says to me, hey, this is a really, really good team. Other than, when you're tossing shutouts, that's kind of cool. But
right.
I think Iowa's better. I mean, I just think that I think there's some motivation going into this game after last year, and so I don't think it's going to be. I don't want to say it's not going to be a close game, but it's not going to come down to a kick. I think it's probably a 10-point win, 13-point win for Iowa on Saturday, because I just think right now there's a lot of motivation with this team to go on the road, start the Big Ten strong, and I think this is one of those games where maybe they can kind of break out and do some things.
You open up a door for me, so I'll just follow up, Trent, if that's okay. Just the motivation with last year's game, was that a talking point yesterday, John?
Yeah, it got brought up a lot. I mean, every player that came out got asked about it. A lot of them, just tried to, it's another game, and you know that it's not, and you know that it's been talked about, and the guys that were there last year were probably still, not happy about it. So, I do think that it didn't go. It came up, but we didn't really get a satisfactory answer on. But they're not real happy about it, and I do think that's going to be a lot of motivation going into this game.
A banged-up running back room. Now, you feel great with Kaleb Johnson and what we've seen out of him, but Moulton got his bell rung. LaShawn Williams will not play this week. Finally, they took the bubble wrap off of Jazian Patterson after the suspension in Game 1, and he looked pretty dang good once again out there. After that, Max White, is that what we're looking at? One of the freshmen maybe at the running back spot. Getting thin quickly there, certainly. Depending on Moulton, looks like Kirk thinks he's going to play, but you always have to be careful after one of those head hits.
Yeah, and I think if he can go, he'll play. But I do think it's a very deep room, and I think that obviously Kaleb Johnson's going to get the bulk of the carries, and I think Jazz Patterson comes in and does some things. You saw what he could do the other day, and you've kind of seen a little bit what he's been able to do in the past. So I do think they're set there. I do think it's a deep room. I think it's a really good room. I think it's probably maybe, I don't want to say underrated because everybody knows what Kaleb Johnson is, but I think it's kind of an underrated part of this team right now is how well they're really running the ball, and so I'm not worried there. I think there's enough depth there to get them through the game, because I still think Kaleb Johnson has 150 yards or something like that. I know they're going to key on him a little bit, but I think Iowa can be able to handle that.
Jacob Gill seems to be have become wide receiver number 1, at least the target for McNamara, which is fine. He looks really good. Where I want to go is Reese Vanderzee, who we saw in the opening game as a true freshman. He's having, unbelievable debut. What's happened the last couple of games, John, that he hasn't had the targets or had the success that he had? Obviously, week 2, the competition stepped up significantly. But any concern about Vanderzee?
Well, you said it, true freshman. I think there's probably still some learning things, because they probably did, after that first game, now all of a sudden all that video's out there on him. Now all of a sudden defenses are going to be watching him, and they're going to be putting some older guys on him. So now it's up to him to figure out, okay, how do I break free from these guys? What do I need to do? And it's also going to be incumbent on Tim Lester to find, okay, what can we do differently with him now? But I think the growth, I think the talent is there. Now it's just figure out, okay, I've taken that first step. Now what do I have to do to take the second, third step?
Speaking of wide receivers, what's going on with Kaleb Brown? Just 7 snaps in the game, served the 1-game suspension. They still need help at wide receiver. It's not like they're just absolutely locked and loaded. Reese Vanderzee, his numbers, at least from Pro Football Focus, have gone down each and every week here during the first 3. Lack of snaps here. Do you anticipate that's going to change coming up for Kaleb Brown this week?
I would like to hope that it does, because you got to go back to what you said. They do need the depth, and he is a very talented player. Now, if there's something internally there, I'm sure they weren't real happy with what happened this summer, and I'm sure that, and there's that, Kirk's circle of trust, and you break that circle of trust a little bit, and it's kind of hard to get back in. So maybe that's part of this. Excuse me, I don't know, but we'll see here in the next couple of weeks whether it's this week and then after the bye week where he kind of fits in at this point. Because I do think that he's, everything that happened has kind of set him back a little bit.
Yeah, it really has. Offensive line, part of the B that you graded, they're significantly improved from last year. Is there another level there, though? Do you think, John? Are they going to have to, step it up a little bit more now that we're in Big Ten play?
Absolutely, because I do think when the way Iowa has run the ball, you're going to start to see teams challenge them a little bit, and put more guys in the box and do some different things. And so it's going to be up to this line to figure out ways, which is what they couldn't do in the last couple of years when Iowa wasn't able to throw the ball, figure out ways to open holes. And it's also going to be up to Iowa's passing game to kind of keep, kind of open that up a little bit and do some different things. So I think you're going to see it's just going to be all part of the chess game you're going to see here in the next few weeks. With the obvious rise in competition that's coming, so we'll get a bigger lesson on them, I think, this week. But what they've done so far through 3 games has been really good. And it's a good sign that the team has taken a big step from last year.
John Bohnenkamp from Hawkeye Nation and the Associated Press joining us as we talk a little Iowa football with Bohnenkamp. Let's get a little deeper into the Gophers, what we've seen out of Minnesota. If you're like me, you've watched a lot of the game, if not all of the game in week 1 on that Thursday night against North Carolina. Since then, the defense has stepped up in a big-time way. Back-to-back shutouts. What do we see when we look across in the field and see the Gophers? We'll talk about that as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Game Time and the Game Time app. Look, I'm pumped up, making my way up to Minnesota this weekend. Going to be doing, get up there Saturday, leave late in the morning, get up there by hopefully tailgate spot 12:31. Well, here's another thing you need. Tickets for the game. And I've been looking on the Game Time app. I love the Game Time app for so many different reasons. They have great things for you there. The all-in pricing, the ability to see exactly where you're going to sit. Maybe you're going to a new stadium for the first time. They got you covered there. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Talk about that all-in pricing. You toggle that feature, it shows you the total up front. Don't have to worry about those surprise fees at checkout. You look at the price, you know exactly what the price is going to be. I love the all-in pricing that they have and making sure you toggle that feature so you can see that total up front. Their lowest price guarantee, also Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Trent Condon back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. All right, wrapping things up here and taking a quick peek at the statistical profile. Tomorrow, we'll go a little bit deeper, get you ready for the game, and get you some more thoughts, some keys to the game in this one. But always like to look at the statistical profile. Now, we also have to be honest about this. North Carolina is a middle-of-the-road 5th, 6th place team, maybe in the ACC this year. They lost a lot from a year ago. This is not an outfit that is going to be challenging for double-digit wins, and Minnesota missed a couple of kicks by their kicker. Now, my radio partner, Ken, he mentioned, now their kicker's 5 for 9. He was also all Big Ten last year. So to think that this guy is going to screw it up, I wouldn't go down that path. But these wins after the loss to North Carolina, 48-0 against Rhode Island. The Rams do not have Lamar Odom and Luther Clay. That was basketball 25 years ago. All right. No, that is not what Rhode Island has. And then Nevada, who's not good. That's who they beat. Shutout, great. Congratulations. Did what you're supposed to. Did that. You hold Rhode Island in the game to 135 yards of total offense. What does that mean against Rhode Island? It's hard to tell. Against Nevada, a team that is rebuilding, hold them to 172. Well, there's still teams with scholarships. There's still teams that are trying. This is what Phil Fleck has built this program into. I love him or hate him. I'd be on the latter side. The guy's a good football coach. The guy knows what he's doing. It's not all circus act. He is a circus barker. He is about promoting himself along with promoting his program. He has a personality type that doesn't mesh with me, but that doesn't matter. And he's added some juice back to this rivalry, and that's a good thing. Juice in rivalries is fun, and that's what we get. And as a Hawkeye fan, to have somebody that you actually hate, not sports hate, well, it's sports hate, but still, a guy that you don't like, that's good for a rivalry too. They're good defensively. They're going to be big up front. They got another tackle that's going to go off to the NFL, and he just keeps churning them out. They got a ground game with Taylor that's going to be really good. Again, statistical profile doesn't paint a full picture, I don't believe, just because of the opponents that they face. I mean, you go through and you look at some of these numbers so far this season. Haven't thrown an interception this year. Well, that's great, right? That's exactly what you want. Other numbers that are towards the top. They have fourth down conversion percentage. They're first. Well, they're 1 for 1 on the season. Third down conversion rate, though, that's a big one. And they're 14th in the country. 56.3% finishing up on third downs and getting a first down. That's an absolutely huge one, and one that I think is going to be uber important coming up. Some areas, though, that maybe Iowa can find something. Punt returns, that is one that definitely jumped off the page. They haven't been great in special teams. Now, neither is Iowa, certainly in the punt return unit. This could be a game, slobber knocker, low scoring, slugfest. Who makes a mistake? That mistake or that big play in special teams, something I'm certainly going to be looking for on Saturday. Number 1 in red zone offense so far this year. They lead the country in that statistic. Rush defense, though, not great for the Gophers. All right, here we go. Now we know what they're going to do. They're going to put heat in the box. They're going to make Caden McNamara beat them. Make the makeables. You do that, I think you have a chance to go up there, get a road victory, and calm at least a little bit the waters going into the bye week and, of course, the matchup against Ohio State after that. As mentioned, we'll dive a little bit deeper into the Gophers here on tomorrow's show, get into what we've seen from this Minnesota team, look at some of the players that you need to match up with, and some of the keys to the game for Iowa to pull it out. But I think special teams, as we just came across there, that is going to be a big one. Look, this is a huge matchup. As we open the show today, this is as important of an Iowa football game as you're going to find on the schedule this year. There's not a doubt in my mind. They will build if Iowa keeps building games, but you lose this one, things are going to get ugly. Let's not have it happen. One more show coming up for you tomorrow. We will dive into the matchup deeper against Minnesota. Tom Kaker from HawkeyeReport.com. He will also join us as we get ready to make our way. The Hawkeye team, and myself included, excited to get up to Minneapolis and watch yet another edition of the battle for Floyd of Rosedale. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Appreciate each and every one of you out there for joining us every day. For your second listen, make sure to find Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to the never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for what is an exciting season as Big Ten play is now in front of us on the gridiron. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Thanks for being with us today. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.